My family left me out of the will. Then I paid $6,000 to keep their house. Mom still asked for more. I used to believe that dedication would eventually be rewarded until the day I opened that old document folder. That afternoon, I stopped by my parents' house in Oak Haven like I did every weekend. My mother, Susan, wasn't tech savvy, so I often helped her check bills, organize tax papers, and scan important documents. That two-story red brick house, the one I had spent nearly a decade financially supporting and helping renovate tile by tile, felt like a second home to me. "Can you take a look at this for me?" she said, handing me a messy stack of papers before heading back to her orchids in the backyard. I sat down at the dining table, sifting through the pile until my eyes landed on a thick, cream-colored envelope labeled in bold, Family Trust and Will. I hesitated. Not because I was curious, at least that's what I told myself, but because I wanted to make sure everything was in order. I'd always been the one to worry about things like this, the one who kept the family from falling apart. But as I flipped to the asset distribution page, I felt a tight pressure in my chest. Everything. And I mean everything my parents owned. The house valued at over $450,000, a substantial amount in savings, the new family SUV, even Mom's heirloom bracelet, was clearly stated to go to Clara, my younger sister. Not a word about me, not a single mention beyond the vague line, "We love both our daughters." I clenched the paper, my knuckles turning white. Every memory of working 2 jobs to help pay their mortgage, of driving through snowstorms to deliver Mom's medication, of fixing leaky faucets and replacing broken window panes, each of them felt like they had just been slapped out of existence by that cold, printed sentence. I heard my mother re-enter the house, her footsteps light behind me. "Elara, did you find the statement?" I stood up, will in hand, and turned around. My voice was calm, unnervingly calm. "Mom, is this real?" She froze, her eyes glancing at the paper in my hand. "Oh, Elara, what does that mean?" I cut her off, my throat tight, but each word sharp. "A lifetime of caring for you and Dad, and I'm written off like I never existed?" My father, David, walked in from the living room just then, coffee mug in hand. He set it down with a sigh, like he was about to comment on the weather. "You don't need to react like this, Elara. You're doing fine. Clara, she's still figuring things out." I let out a laugh, humorless and dry. "Figuring things out? She's 30. She changes jobs every 3 months, lives off her social media influence, and can't pay her own phone bill. I'm the one who paid your mortgage for the last 3 years. The one who fixed the leaky roof last spring. The one who's kept this house from falling apart, dollar by dollar." My mother stepped forward, placing a hand over mine as if that could calm me. "Don't overthink it. I just wanted your sister to feel secure." I pulled my hand away, nodded slightly, my gaze ice cold. "Secure? And what about me? The only one who's kept this place standing all these years?" They said nothing. I placed the will back on the table like returning a declaration of war. "Thanks for showing me where I really stand." I walked to the door without looking back. No one called out behind me, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel hurt. I just felt empty. A quiet, hollow kind of emptiness that chilled me to the bone. I never returned to that house after discovering the will. 2 weeks passed in silence. No calls, no messages, like I had never existed in their world. I told myself if they had even a shred of conscience, they'd reach out. But instead of an apology or explanation, what I got was a text message from Dad. "Elara, this month's mortgage is due. Can you transfer it soon? Deadline's Friday." I sat frozen, staring at the message in disbelief. Part of me almost laughed. No mention of what had happened, no asking if I was okay, just a demand, like I was their default ATM. I typed back every word like ice. "I think Clara can handle it. That house is hers now, right?" Then I set my phone down and didn't wait for a reply. 10 minutes later, the screen lit up again. This time it was Mom. "Elara, don't do this. We need to talk." I didn't answer. I wasn't sad. I wasn't even angry anymore. Just a kind of ruthless clarity had taken the place of every fragile hope I once held. For years, I believed my sacrifices would be acknowledged. I was wrong, and I had no interest in playing savior anymore. 3 days later, the next message came from Clara. "You're overreacting. Mom and Dad didn't mean it like that. You've always been independent, and I'm just not. You know that. I typed slowly, each word cutting through my sister's fake mask. Then prove you deserve what you've been given. Start by paying the mortgage. No response. Another week passed in silence until one Monday morning, while I was sipping coffee in my tiny apartment kitchen, my phone buzzed with a transfer request. Exactly $2,900 from my mother. No message, just a cold withdrawal request as emotionless as the way they'd written me out of everything. I hit decline without a second's hesitation. Minutes later, the phone rang. It was Mom. I let it ring to the fourth buzz, then declined the call. A message followed immediately. Ilara, I know you saw it. Why did you decline? I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and replied, because it's no longer my responsibility. Ask Clara. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had control. I wasn't the one scrambling to fix cracks I didn't create. I wasn't sacrificing my entire youth to patch up other people's failures. 3 days later, Clara texted again. You're being so selfish. Didn't you always say family comes first? I reread that message over and over. Family. The family she was talking about was the same one that treated me like an outsider, like a walking wallet. I replied with one sentence. Family is about fairness and respect, not using someone until they are no longer useful. After that, there were no more messages. Silence settled over everything. But this time, it didn't feel lonely. It felt like relief. A release from a burden I'd carried for far too long. But deep down, I knew this silence was only the beginning, because they'd be back, when no one else would help, when the house was at risk of foreclosure, when Clara, with all that inheritance, still wouldn't know how to pay a bill on time. And when that moment came, I'd be ready. Not to save them, but to show them that I was no longer the one who would sacrifice without so much as a thank you. The next message from Clara came near midnight while I was halfway through a historical novel and sipping hot tea. The phone lit up, and I didn't even need to open it to guess the tone. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I scrolled and kept reading. Everyone's already stressed out. Why are you choosing now to be dramatic? It's just a few payments. You've always done it. A dry laugh slipped from my lips without any humor at all. Just a few payments. Easy to say when you've never paid a utility bill in your life. I typed back. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being clear, and you better get used to it. Less than a minute later, she replied, You're seriously selfish. Don't be surprised if Mom and Dad don't forgive you. I set the phone down. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I wasn't haunted by what-ifs or obsessed with being the good daughter. I had crossed the line. The line between being exploited and standing up for myself. The next day, I called the bank and requested my name be removed from the joint account used for the mortgage. I also contacted the utility companies and canceled all the auto payments I'd been secretly handling for years. I deleted the bill reminders on my phone, like a small ceremony marking the end of my role in their household. That night, I cleaned up my tiny apartment, played my favorite playlist, and bought myself a chocolate cake. I'd always loved it, but never bought it because the money always had to go toward more important things. I started sleeping soundly. I woke up without the jolt of a payment notification. I went to work without feeling like I was dragging 3 other adults on my back. I even signed up for an online art class, something I'd dreamed about for years but always pushed aside because I didn't have the time, or really wasn't allowed to be selfish. And as my life started to breathe on its own again, the knocks from the past came louder. Early the following week, my mom, Susan, called. I didn't answer. A message came right after. Ilara, we need to talk. Your sister doesn't know how to pay the internet bill. Can you help? I didn't respond. 2 days later, another one. The landline got cut off. She says she can't log in. I don't know what to do. I read the message, then opened the bookshelf and pulled out the old notebook where I'd once written down every password, billing schedule, and customer service number. Every time my parents didn't know what to do, they called me. Every time Clara forgot a payment, I handled it. This time, I closed the notebook and put it back. I wasn't their assistant. I wasn't the backbone of a system that erased me the second I stopped being useful. 3 days later, another message from Clara landed in my inbox. Are you kidding me right now? The power's about to be shut off. Are you really going to let that happen to our family? I replied with just one sentence. No, I'm just letting everyone take responsibility for their own choices. Silence. I didn't hear anything for several more days until one Monday morning a call came from an unexpected number. Mrs. Gable, the neighbor who'd lived next door to my parents for the last 20 years. Your mom asked if I knew anyone selling houses. I think they're not managing well anymore. I thanked her, then hung up. I didn't feel smug. I didn't smile, but I didn't cry either. I just sat by the window watching sunlight spill through the trees out front and realized something. For the first time in my life, I wasn't being crushed by duty or guilt. I had chosen to step out of the cycle, and I wasn't going back. The first message came on Monday morning from someone I didn't expect. Mr. Henderson, the other neighbor who'd lived next door to my parents for over 20 years. Alara, are your parents okay? Susan asked what day it was. She thought she got the date wrong, but she just got a letter from the bank. It clearly says, Notice of Foreclosure. I stared at the screen. So it had happened. Faster than I expected. 4 weeks since I stopped all support. 4 weeks for the house I once kept from falling apart to finally start collapsing. An hour later, my mom called. I didn't answer. A message followed right after the ring. Alara, please, we really need you right now. It's serious. I read it, then set the phone down like it had nothing to do with me. But in truth, my chest still felt heavy. I had once thought this moment would bring some twisted sense of satisfaction, but it didn't. Only a hollow, aching fatigue. Maybe because I was too used to cleaning up after others. I didn't reply. 2 days later, for the first time in weeks, Clara showed up at my door. She stood there in a wrinkled hoodie, no makeup, clutching a messy stack of documents. Her eyes gave away the panic. I just need 5 minutes, she said, breathless. Just 5 minutes, Alara. I crossed my arms, blocking the doorway, not a single ounce of sympathy in my eyes. You here to ask for money? Not money, she blurted out, her voice shaky. I need your help talking to the bank. I don't understand the terms they're using. I'm overwhelmed. What about the inheritance you got? I asked, my tone as casual as commenting on the weather. She looked down and mumbled, It's tied up in an investment portfolio. If I withdraw now, there's a penalty. I didn't think it would spiral this fast. I raised an eyebrow. Yet you signed for everything without hesitation. I thought Mom and Dad had it under control. They said it was all set. You didn't think. Exactly. Clara fell silent. I stepped out and pulled the door closed behind me. This is the lesson you need to learn. Everyone stumbles, but no one grows if someone's always there to catch them. You're really going to let them lose the house? I'm not letting anything happen. They made their choice. Now they live with it. I turned away, leaving Clara standing alone in the building's hallway. 3 days later, I ran into Ben, an old classmate turned real estate agent, at a networking event at the local arts center. I was just about to tell him about the photo project I'd been working on when he interrupted, eyes wide. Hey, is your parents' house on Vine Street? I nodded. Someone on my team mentioned them. Sounds like they're urgently looking to sell. Old house, needs work, high foreclosure risk. Are you doing okay? I gave a faint smile. I'm fine. I guess they're not. Ben looked like he wanted to say more, but decided against it. That night, I opened my laptop and spotted an email from a legal aid organization I volunteered with back in college. They were recruiting mentors for a new program helping seniors manage housing debt. I smiled softly. Life had a strange way of circling back. I sat quietly for a long moment before starting the application. Not for my parents, not for Clara. For me, the one who had finally learned to let go. I didn't need to save the old house anymore. But if I could use what I'd been through to keep someone else from falling into that same cycle, that would be worth it. Saturday afternoon, I had just wrapped up a photography workshop and returned to my quiet little apartment, expecting nothing more than a hot cup of tea and a peaceful evening. But as I pulled into the parking lot, I saw a familiar silver minivan parked near the gate. 4 years ago, I had co-signed for that van when my dad, David, could no longer make the payments. I transferred the title to him last year as a final gesture of trust. Now it sat there like a bitter reminder. I got out of my car, walking slowly. My parents stood waiting near the building entrance. Clara stood a bit behind them, clutching her purse, eyes full of barely concealed worry. I said nothing. I stopped a few steps away, arms crossed, waiting. My mother, Susan, spoke first. Her voice was trembling. Ilara, I'm sorry we had to come here, but things have gotten out of hand. The bank's coming to reassess the property next week. My father continued, his voice lower and wearier than I'd ever heard. We made a mistake, Ilara. I know that. But if the house is taken, your mother won't be able to handle it. I looked straight at him, my gaze colder than it had ever been. Then why, when writing the will, did you decide I wasn't worth including? He dropped his eyes, fingers fidgeting with the edge of his coat. Back then, we thought you'd be fine. You've always been strong. But Clara, I interrupted, the words laced with a bitter irony. Clara gets to fail, gets forgiven, and inherits everything. I turned to face my sister. She pressed her lips together, said nothing. No denial, no excuse, I said, my voice quiet but every word sharp. I gave away my youth, without conditions, and in return I got disregard, and the assumption that Ilara will take care of it. I'm not in that role anymore. My mother's tears fell. We didn't know it would come to this. Can't you help? Just a little? Just for a few months until things stabilize? I shook my head, a breeze in my chest sweeping away years of obligation. I'm not saying no because I can't help. I'm saying no because if I do, everyone will go right back to believing they never need to change. Clara finally spoke, her voice small and broken. I didn't realize it would get so complicated. I thought it just needed time. I didn't think you'd walk away so fast. I looked at her. For the first time in weeks, I didn't walk away fast. I warned you. I waited. I hoped. But our family chose to ignore all of it. So this is really the end? My mom whispered, tears still fresh on her cheeks. I looked at her. The woman who once rocked me to sleep, who I'd brought medicine to, taken to the ER, cooked for after my dad retired. And I saw clearer than ever the line between blood and actual love. I didn't end this, I said. It ended the moment you decided who deserved to be named and who didn't. No one said a word. The late autumn wind whistled through the bare trees, carrying with it a chill that no jacket could warm. I stepped up onto the porch, pulled out my keys, and unlocked the door. Before walking inside, I turned back one last time. I hope you find a way, but I'm no longer the lifeline for this family. I looked at Clara and spoke slowly. If you truly want to grow up, this is your chance. I've stepped off the merry-go-round. Now it's your turn. I walked in and shut the door behind me. The sound of the wind in the hallway drowned out their footsteps as they left. I stood quietly in my living room, afternoon sunlight casting a long beam across the floor through the glass. No tears, no heartbreak, just a silence that felt peaceful. I thought that after that final confrontation, they'd go quiet out of pride, but their public shaming on social media proved me wrong. Tired of their manipulation, I posted the truth. The will, the bills, their desperate plea for money, and their accusations finally stopped. Silence followed, not of waiting, but of acceptance. They had lost the one who always returned. I, however, began to live. I found joy in teaching photography, rediscovered my passion for learning video editing, and made genuine connections with new friends. The house listing and Clara's return to her parents barely registered. My savings grew, and I planned a trip, indulging in long-denied luxuries. I channeled my experience into a blog, finding a voice and connecting with others. One rainy afternoon, a real estate notification reminded me of the house. Price drastically reduced. It no longer held any emotional weight. Later, a walk by the lake at dusk brought a moment of profound clarity. Some things were never truly mine to hold on to. Family, I realized, is built on respect and gratitude, not just blood. I had given everything to be seen, only to be erased. A handwritten letter arrived from my mother, filled with regret and a plea for reconciliation. I placed it in a drawer, a reminder of a past I was still processing. I didn't hate them, but I no longer had the strength for endless sacrifice without reciprocity. My life flourished. I held a photo exhibit, capturing moments of quiet resilience that resonated with others who had been silenced. I had finally found peace, not in seeking approval, but in choosing myself. I learned to say no, to let others face their consequences, and to never look back. They remained family in name and memory, but no longer dictated my life. Whether reunion or distance lay ahead, I was okay. I understood that family is about valuing presence and choosing to see you. If they couldn't, I had myself. My story wasn't a tragedy, but an awakening. I learned that no one deserves to be taken for granted, and I chose myself. Finally free.